Catch those springtime vibes all over Arizona. Break out of the winter blues by hitting the water at one of our lake and river parks. Take a hike among the wildflowers. Just make sure to stay on the trails and leave the flowers for the bees. Discover Arizona's best kept secret and visit azstateparks.com/amazing to start your springtime adventure.
Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Welcome in, Panther fans. A breaking news podcast for you as Brian Burns has been traded to the New York Giants. He's the second highest paid defensive outside linebacker in the league, if however you want to classify it. Frankie Luvu is a commander. The Panthers have got a big hog molly in the middle for a new guard that they were acquired, Robert Hunt, today. And more news piling in as we cover it live on the C3 Panthers podcast. But right now, the news of the moment is Brian Burns being sent to the New York Giants and a giant deal in the works for Brian Burns. The news has broke today. Cody Lashney, how are you feeling about this? Because I look around and I see people say, Dan Morgan, trash. This is terrible, unbelievable, poverty franchise, the worst shit ever. What I
Give
think
me a break.
Boy.
Dude, what person in their right mind thought that the Giants were going to make Brian Burns the second highest paid edge in football and give up a first round pick? Thank you, lucky stars, that the Panthers were able to do this at all, man. The Carolina Panthers missed their window to put talent on that defensive line around Brian Burns. Now it is time to build the offense for the future. Tony, they did that today by signing Robert Hunt to a brand new contract to protect Bryce at right guard for the future. Now we're talking about, could the Panthers trade and use one of these second round picks to grab a wide receiver? The window is open to put talent around Bryce Young, and doing this allows the Carolina Panthers to do that. I know it might hurt right now, especially to all the Brian Burns fans, but Tony, I believe you, I, and CK have known that this was inevitable for a while now. And I'm happy for Brian, man. Congrats on the big-time payday. Now he's going to a defensive line that has Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau. I think this is the best for all parties involved. There was no way we were ever getting our first-round pick. We just weren't.
You're listening to the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. We're the longest-running Panthers podcast out there. That's right, including the team. We haven't missed a week in over a decade now, and we're going to keep it rolling for the next decade, despite the Carolina Panthers being in full rebuild mode. CK was excited to talk about this. The Carolina Panthers have shipped off Brian Burns. They get a high second round, 39th pick this year from the New York Giants, a 5th round pick in the future. And immediately people in the chat are saying, I can't believe this. We should have taken the Rams deal. Regardless of what that was in the past, I think that the trade value for Brian Burns was going to leave Panther fans lacking or feeling like they should have or would have got more. I just wonder how Giants feel about paying so much to a guy who has only had over 10 sacks once in his career. Yeah. Your initial thoughts to the movement of Brian Burns to the New York Giants?
I am here to be a bit of a voice of reason for everybody. It is okay to be disappointed that we didn't get more for Brian Burns. That's fine. You also have to understand we had zero leverage and we did not have, this is not, what's something that we said after that first game? It was something Trey Boston was putting out there. It was Yesterday's price is not today's price, right?
Yes.
And that is legitimately what happened. He was in the middle. It wasn't the end of his fourth season. He was still in at that trade deadline. The Rams were offering those 2 firsts. The value he offered at that was there, that was going to be a year and a half of him being on an affordable rookie contract, was worthy of those 2 firsts to the Rams. This is a different situation entirely. Blaming Dan for not being able to get more for Brian Burns is an asinine thought. It is outrageous. Dan it's something that I like to say. He was dealing with the sins of the father, right? The sins of the father always come back on
his neighbor.
Right. And right. And so, when you see that happen, you can't blame Dan for doing the best he possibly could. You could have said, no, I'm sticking firm with my 2 seconds. But he wanted $150 million 5-year contract. That's $30 million a year. That is what you were trading away. That him getting that big of a contract and getting us getting a second round pick is a miracle. It is a miracle. Lamar Jackson didn't get anybody to bite on his exclusive franchise tag either, right? And he got paid, and it worked out well for them. They were not a rebuilding team at the time.
And that's a quarterback.
We are a rebuilding team. This is okay. And I'm fine with you guys being sad that he's gone. But don't you dare put this on Dan Morgan. You guys know I am critical of that decision to move forward with Dan Morgan as the GM. This is not a Dan Morgan problem. This is I've inherited a bad situation, and we've got to make the best of what we have. And Brian Burns deserved to be able to go and get paid. We were not going to be the ones to do that. If we didn't trade him, he wasn't. Who really thinks he was about to play on the tag? He was going to hold it out until we traded him. And if we did that, the longer we went in the season, the more that this was going to cost us as far as not getting anything. As to
all
trade.
parties involved would have looked terrible. Brian Burns would have had to miss game checks. And people, 5 years, $150 million max with $187.5 million guaranteed right now. We were the worst team in football in 2023. We are not in a position to pay this kind of money yet. More importantly, like we already said, the New York Giants, they were not going to pay him all that money and give up a first-round pick. I also understand, CK, that a lot of people are looking at Christian McCaffrey, and they said, well, we never got enough for CMC. And now here we are doing the same thing again with Burns. Look, man, I know it sucks. And I know you hate to see all your favorite Panther players walk out the door. We haven't even talked about Frankie Luvu yet. We're going to here in a minute. But when you're rebuilding, you have a brand new GM, you have a brand new head coach, you have a brand new quarterback. Everyone knows the mission. And that's what I've been arguing for months now. You have to build this offense around Bryce Young. And you're not going to do it without money to spend in free agency and without draft picks to be able to build your team with rookie contracts. This had to happen. And I don't know how we were ever going to get any more than what the Panthers did right now.
It's a miracle.
Dan Morgan is trash. Poverty franchise. You know what would have been poverty is paying Brian Burns $150 million to stay in Carolina on a team that had recorded the least amount of sacks in the entire NFL last year, that had a fool's gold defense. And on top of that, let's just look, I can finally say it. I'm glad he's gone. I know it feels so terrible to people to say, and look, I get it, man. As someone who has had several teams that they cheer for that stink, it stinks to talk junk about the best players on your team. But Brian Burns is good. He is not great. And I want to tell you guys, if you want to hold on to this, he don't got anybody around him. He don't got this and that. Okay, whatever. But guess what? He won't gonna have anybody around him here in Carolina next year.
Right.
And he is a compliment. We'll see. We'll see. How about this? Is he going to be a complimentary defensive end on that defensive front? Or all of a sudden are people going to be looking around the league and saying Brian Burns is the best defensive edge in the league, the best pass rusher in the league? And I'm telling you, he's not. Now, look, I'm not cheering against him. He's good. He's not great. And to say he's elite is insane to me. On top of that, for people that are saying we screwed up, the bigger screw up, folks, was us be cutting the check for $150 million. Because you should say this. You can go ahead and calculate the $87 million that's fully guaranteed. They're going to spread that out over 5 years. That's $17 million against the cap each and every single year at the very minimum. Right. Then you have to add in the salary for that season. So you take the other $75 million or about $75 million, and you're going to say this, that's another $15 million. And I don't care how you spread it out. Maybe we're able to back in some of that where it's $10 million this year. But this guy's going to cost the New York Giants $27 million this year.
Yeah.
And he's going to cost them $27 million next year. And that's the minimum that it's going to be. And I tell you this is I want to know, Panther fans, you can call in at 252-228-5098. We'll take some calls tonight. But at any point, do you think that you believe that Brian Burns was so good because he was a player on your team? Do you think people around the league, do you think a Rams fan knows who the hell Brian Burns is? Do you think Green Bay Packers are like, oh, God, I can't believe it. The Giants defense, unstoppable now that you get Brian Burns. Look, is he a good player? Should he want to get paid? Absolutely. Should he be lobbying for every dollar he can get? Yes, 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 and yes. Should the Panthers have done this? No, they shouldn't have been the one to pay. And let's get past the 2 first-round picks for the Rams. It's gone. It hasn't been there for a while. And to be honest, it's more rumor and conjecture than if we know if it's truth. Now, maybe it was. And if it is, the big mistake was not taking it. To say this is to say you're not going to take any player 2 first-round picks for him that's not a quarterback. You should have said this is anytime somebody calls up and says, we'll give you 2 first-round picks, you just say, not a quarterback? Yeah, done. Hanging up the phone. We're doing it right now. Brian Burns signed a $150 million contract. And yes, you can tell me, look, the salary cap has gone up. Everybody's going to get paid more. They're going to get paid more the following year. Part truth to that. But you folks might have overpaid for your house if you bought it in the last 2 years. Hate to say it. Maybe the prices are like that, but you're overpaying right now for players, and they're going to tell you that the market is only going to continue to go up. Well, check the running back numbers. Check the safety numbers. They ain't as big as they were 2 years ago. Sometimes there's some ups and downs and things, and while defensive ends, or in this case, outside linebackers, which are defensive ends in my mind in this NFL, while these guys are premium players when it comes to left tackles, when it comes to defensive ends, and when it comes to quarterback, they're the top 3 tiers of players. But do you think that this man is a top 5 defensive player in this league?
No. He's the second highest paid defensive end in the NFL. Jonathan Grenard, like Anthony said in the chat, got 12.5 sacks and got $19 million. Like, look, I'm not trying to shit on the guy, but Hassan Reddick had better numbers on 3 different teams than Brian Burns did 5 years on the same team. And look, I have no doubt in my mind that the dude is going to ball out with New York. Put him next to Dexter Lawrence. Like, I think that's going to be a great fit. A great fit for Brian. But to pay him the second highest paid money at defensive end, nah, I'm just not for it, man. And listen, we also have to add it to the context of what happened today. They signed Robert Hunt, right guard for the Miami Dolphins. He's now a Carolina Panther.
$100 million deal.
5 years.
He was one of the best offensive linemen in all of football last year. Now that isn't going to hurt us as much on the books because we're able to move on from Brian Burns. And Tony, we haven't even talked about it. I guess we ought to now. Frankie Luvu, a lot of, a fan favorite. A lot of fans of Frankie in this chat. I know he's been one of my favorite players for a long time, signing a 3-year, $36 million deal with the Washington Commanders. I'm going to be real. I hate to see Luvu go more than Brian Burns. Yeah. I feel like Luvu has been a monster on this football team. He came here from New York. No one ever expected anything from him. And all that man ever did was ball out and fly around the football field. So,
yeah,
it's tough, I think, we're making room.
I think that one hurts more because, number one, it wasn't going to be as cap. It wasn't going to hurt our cap nearly as much.
3-year, $36 million, I think.
$36 million. I mean, that one felt like it was a doable. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm saying is happening. We've seen multiple moves like this where we didn't get the guys that we wanted. We saw Von Bell get let go of. You hear the rumors of Dante Jackson being let go, Bozeman potentially being let go. These aren't big money moves. They're not. I don't believe the majority of the decisions are money related. I think this is about doing a proper rebuild, right? And whereas Frankie Luvu, I think, was a great player and a dog, as Dan Morgan was talking about, I think they would like to have brought him back. I think that was a goal of theirs. I don't know that Luvu wanted to be back.
Well, he's not a spring chicken either. I think he's like close, edging up on 30 years himself. And Luvu was an impact player. He made splash plays, but no one's going to go out there and say that he is Patrick Queen or, like a guy that
he's the best player and the other teams don't even know who he is.
Exactly.
Right? He's the best player that other teams don't know.
Jordan Schultz went on the Pat McAfee show today and said that the Panthers were pursuing Patrick Queen. So we might not even be done at that position.
And the word is that he was, I know there were some fake tweets, but the word is that it was close to being a done deal with the Seahawks, but something had changed and he's still out there. And, the word, again, if you were to read between the lines, is that the Panthers came in and were trying to make something happen. I'd be surprised by this. This would be, again, a direct contradiction to what I believe, which is this team is rebuilding. I do think Patrick Queen is a younger player, and that could be a foundation piece to build around. But that would be a surprise to me.
North Carolina legal sports betting is now officially live. To celebrate, DraftKings is giving new users $250 in bonus bets for a limited time. All you have to do is register for DraftKings using the our code FSBETS. Deposit $5 and place a $5 first bet to instantly receive $250 in bonus bets. The best part is that you get all your rewards even if your $5 first bet loses. If you signed up for DraftKings with our early bird offer last week, you will automatically receive the $250 in bonus bets after placing your first bet. Registering with our code FSBETS not only gets you these fantastic bonuses, but it directly supports the podcast. This offer is around for a few weeks. It's only around for a few weeks. Remember to enter our code FSBETS to claim your $250 in bonus bets. This offer is available for new customers who are 21 and older and physically present in North Carolina. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. If you got a gambling problem, call 877-718-5543. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer. Is that the Panthers were not going to be active in day one of free agency very much. I thought that you landed a guard at the cheapest price by any means, but you got a top tier guard, or it looks like it, a top tier offensive lineman, and they wanted to bolster the middle. And other teams were paying guys a lot, right? So it's not like these guards were just commanding a little bit of money.
You have to pay to play. And it's all about what you're paying for. And what are we paying for? He's a 6'6", 335-pound guard that played over 600 snaps last year. This dude is a mountain. He is a people mover. And what have we been saying for a long time, Tony? That we have to build that interior of the O-line if we're ever going to let Bryce be successful. Look at how physical my man is at the point of attack. Moving people out of the way, getting upfield. Listen, Austin Corbett was hurt so many times last year, Tony. The injuries continue to mount up for him. It's reasonable to assume that his best days were behind him. And listen, moves like this, it's why I'm okay with losing Brian Burns. And even though I loved Frankie Luvu, and it's a hard pill to swallow, this is why I'm okay with that too. Because we see that there is a concerted effort by Dan Morgan and Dave Canales and Brant Tillis to build this offense and make this offense viable for the first time in a long time. I don't think we're done, boys. One of the questions that we're going to have to ask now is, now that we have another second-round pick, are either of those picks in play to maybe potentially trade for T. Higgins or Jordan Addison? Is that the guy? Not Jordan Addison. Who's the dude? Michael Pittman from the Colts. He might be someone that the Panthers might be interested in sending one of those picks to. Or Carolina could just double down and draft a receiver and a center in the second round, or another linebacker. The Panthers have options now. And another thing I wanted to mention, we don't know what Dan Morgan would have done if he was the general manager when the Rams did offer a theoretical trade for future first-round picks. Maybe Dan would have accepted that deal at that time. We have no way of knowing. I am happy with everything that Dan Morgan has done today. I love the direction that we're moving.
Pittman did sign a contract today with the Colts, so he's not going to be available. But what we have here is a lot of things happening when it comes to the Panthers, and a lot of people exiting. And one of these, the exits that we saw, Von Bell was released today. That's going to free up some money, or a little bit. The Panthers, with Brian Burns on the books for $24 million. And by the way, if you would have signed him to this deal, it would have only been up by $3 million this year, right? Now maybe you could have massaged it and pushed some of it farther back, right? But the Panthers didn't have any money to work with. You're talking $15 million to work with, and they have been letting guys go left and right, trying to free up anything to start building that wall for Bryce Young. Bradley Bozeman on the way out, it looks like. Von Bell on the way, it looks out. Right now, they did sign Troy Hill to a 1-year deal, who's playing the nickel corner for us and reasonably well. But the Panthers, Xavier Woods, see you later. Frankie Luvu, see you later. Brian Burns, see you later. The interesting part to this to me is that the Carolina Panthers defense, and now I know a lot of people want to shit on Scott Fitterer, right? And he is the latest person that you can kick on the way out the door. But the Carolina Panthers, the year before Scott Fitterer got there, invested 8 picks in the defense. 8 picks in the defense. And right now, there's not a single player on this defense other than Derek Brown, who was, I believe, the first pick in that draft as well for the Panthers, that anybody cares about, right? This team is rebuilding now, it looks like, in entirety, and probably about time. The fact is, all right, do you really think the compensation for Brian Burns was all that bad? I'm with CK. Is the Panthers, if anything, I thought got a reasonable amount for him, knowing that the team that was going to have to sign him was going to have to pay him, and knowing that the Carolina Panthers couldn't pay him. Right.
No, I think wholeheartedly. I think that the compensation. I think we should be excited that we got the 39th pick. Right. We took that money off of the books, and that's going to allow us to do a few things. And here's the thing. And Tony, you touched base on this, but I think people need to hear this more. right? There's a lot of context that needs to be had, right? The people who are Brian Burns, defenders, and I can be one of them. Like, I look at this and I think that there's a legitimate conversation to be had about his production last year, right? Yeah, he admitted that maybe he took some plays off because he was worried about his health and the contract and all that stuff. Sure, whatever's going on there, that could have been a part of it. However, the part of this that I think is worthy of a conversation is we were a team that we were always behind, meaning teams were not throwing the ball against us. We were, and I've mentioned this ad nauseum. So to his credit, he wasn't given nearly the same opportunity that many of the Nick Bosa's and the Myles Garrett had, because they were usually playing from a lead, right? So we weren't in obvious pass rushing downs, and many of those he was dropping back into coverage. Sheena had talked about that on her spaces earlier, right?
That's what happens when you're an outside linebacker,
right? But here's the thing: the argument that Tony made earlier is the best thing you could possibly have, and that is, we can continue down the path that we were on, which is a sinking ship that is the Carolina Panthers, not add anybody that's opposite of Brian Burns, not be able to do anything on the offensive side because we're paying Brian Burns the money everybody wanted to pay him, because we're not going to be able to, we wouldn't be able to get potentially Hunt or Hurt. What was his name? Hunt? The guy we got?
Robert Hunt.
Robert Hunt.
And so we wouldn't have gotten him. Now we're still dealing with the same issues where our offense can't score. We can't even be in the potential running for being able to fill many of these holes. So now we're still just running it back with the same bullshit we've been running it with for the past 4 years. It doesn't make sense to continue to do the same thing over and over and over. That is literally the definition of insanity. Let's move forward. Let him go get the money that he earned.
Like,
Brian Burns earned that money.
Aren't y'all ready to see touchdowns?
Yes.
I'm ready to see some touchdowns.
And I'll be honest with you. We want to look back at CMC and say, look how good he is, right? CMC would not have had the production here that he had in San Francisco this year or last year when we first traded him. Brian Burns very well could come out and be a top 5 pass rusher in the league next year. He was not going to do that here. This might be the best possible situation for Thibodeau. Thibodeau may be actually be one of the best. He may be one of the best defensive rushers next year because Brian Burns is opposite of him. We saw that happen with Reddick the year he was with Carolina. I think Brian Burns is a great player. I really do. I don't think he's worthy of saying he's crap. One bad season does not mean that he is the worst player and he doesn't deserve to get paid. We cannot, because we are a rebuilding team. I loved Brian Burns and I wanted him to be here for his entire career, because there's something about having the mayor of Charlotte, having guys like Thomas Davis, having guys like Luke, having guys like Cam and Greg Olsen and all of these legends, Mike Rucker, these people that stick around because they identify as being Carolina Panthers. We are not that same team where we want to be excited about these players, because we are a bad football team. We have to do what many other teams have had to do and cut the fat, move on, rebuild the proper way. We've been retooling for too long, and it has set us back a decade.
One other point and we got to hit up my bastard son super chat after this point right here is, CK, while the teams didn't have to pass against us because our offense was not putting up points, that is a big part of the equation. But part of the equation too is that they were busted off 4 or 5 yards runs on first and second down, and they were always in manageable situations. So this defense, the defense was not great. And people that say it was, if anything, this is what the defense did that was great, is that they weren't as bad as we thought they could be, given the lack of talent they had. Brian Burns, though, was able to secure the bag, and good for him. Good for him. But I cannot believe that I don't think he's the type of player who is the cornerstone player. And the question is this, is he going to be the best defensive lineman on that team even?
No.
No, I think Thibodeau will be. I think Thibodeau will be the guy.
No, I think Dexter Lawrence is.
I think Thibodeau is going to step up this year.
Oh, maybe so.
Okay, point being, it was top 4, Tony. You tripping. It was not top 4. Teams didn't have to do anything to beat this team.
Hold on. What metric are we using top four? What metric are we using top four? Because that is the worst take I've ever seen.
You see all these numbers used to justify Brian Burns as like one of the better defensive ends in football. Dude, the hoops that y'all jump through to try and build this man up as like a top 5 pass rusher, it's embarrassing, man. If we had signed Brian Burns, who thinks, oh, okay, now we have a great chance to win next year. We weren't winning last year or the year before or the year before. What kind of hope in the future was that supposed to inspire? Like, it was time to do this.
I just think that the price tag for us was unfeasible.
It was not possible.
And, we're going to have to be looking to see what we need to go ahead and see what Giants fans are saying about this. Now, remember this is that, look, the Giants were, I guess, third. They were at the worst in the league. They were the 4th worst rushing defense in the league last year with 2,251 rushing yards. By the way, the Panthers weren't that far better than at 2,000 yards that they gave up in rushing attempts. The Panthers had one of the worst red zone defenses in the league, the lowest sacks. So what is the metric? The metric is yards, I guess, total yards, passing yards, and points.
All-time sacks for the Panthers, in which they try and compare him to Julius Peppers.
No, I'm talking about overall as a defense. The overall defense. Is you can find whatever stat that makes you feel good about this, but you're trying to tell me a top 4 defense couldn't muster 2 wins on its own.
That's all. Yeah. So, by the way, on YouTube and Twitter total, we've got around 710 people watching right now. Somebody put in the chat and name the moment that Brian Burns took over a football game. And here's the caveat. Don't mention the help that he had on the line. Just tell me, when did Brian Burns take over a football game in the 4th quarter when the game was on the line?
You could say week 1 of this past year where he had 2.5 sacks and it looked like he was going to have a crazy season. And by the way, he only got 6 more sacks the entire season.
Yeah. So, dude, again, this is like we're running around in circles. I agree with you, Tony. I'm happy that this happened. I'm ready to move on from him. Paying that amount of money for Burns would have been a giant waste of money for the Panthers at this point right now. And I still don't see too many answers in the chat. So it's like, if you can't give me one of them, then you're not able to justify paying him the amount of money that the New York Giants just paid him. And I'm not mad at the dude. I'm happy that he got paid. And let me tell you, he's going to need every bit of that contract paying those New York taxes, bro, because they're about to go up and up and up. So shout out to him. It's time to move on from this, man. I'm so done with it.
Hit up the super chat for my bastard son.
Yes, sir. He said Burns didn't want to be here. Clowney can get us 8. Oh, shit. I don't think we're done. I don't think that we're just going to leave this defense to just leave it as is.
It's impossible. They need players to actually fill out the roster is one thing. The number's 252-228-5098. Tell us where we're right. Tell us where we're wrong. Tell me why this defense was a top 5 defense beyond just, I just say the eye test, man. I watched that defense, and people did what they wanted whenever they wanted against this team, whether it be on offense, on defense, or whatever it may be. The number is 252-228-5098. You can support the show by being part of the chat, smashing the thumbs up button, subscribing, letting a friend know about the longest running Panthers podcast, where we're developing a community that lets you be the leader of the show. Cody, can we take some calls right now? We got a couple in the chamber. I'm sure they want to talk about Brian Burns and how great he's going to be with the New York Giants and his giant contract. Hey, how fitting is that? Pun intended.
252-228-5098. Ole do it.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty you shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like...
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's Who's that kid that can use one?
Yo, what's going on, my C3 family?
Dude,
I'm
what
from
up?
North Carolina. Here chilling. Shout out to the great Tony Dunn, the homie Cody like Dizzle CK. Shout the hell up, Panther Pickle, that up and guy muscle marinara. There gone the great and lovely Kristen Leday, Josh Anthony Dees, and the whole family. Today is a great day. Today's a very great day. Because, like I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, improvements in the right direction. I understand that there's people that want Burns or whatever. Like I said, on the beautiful spaces with D's and Pickle and them, are very passionate spaces to be exact. I was just telling them, like, this is the process of when in life you made bad decisions 2, 3, 4 years ago, and then it comes back and kick you in the rear end now. This is one of them situations. And when you got to do your lawn and you got to burn that grass down, you might have had some good patches. But even them good patches got to go get the whole thing great. So I'm not concerned. I'm not worried about it. It was inevitable to me that Brian Burns was gone. I wrapped my head around it. I wrapped my heart around it. And I'm cool. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to keep pounding. I'm ready to draft people. I'm ready to see what other free agents. And then we went and got this big, massive, 6'6" mass of a man to help try to protect Bryce. I believe in Super Dan right now. And like I said before, until Super Dan show me different, I'm with Dan. And right now, Dan's showing me that at least he's trying to build a team of Avengers to save us Panthers. We're going to see how it goes, but I'm not mad right now for how it goes. But, yo, shout out to the greatest and longest running Panther podcast on these streets. I love every single one of y'all. Y'all hit that click, like, and subscribe. Yo, keep pounding.
Keep pounding.
Thanks a lot for the call. And really is I guess
Giants fans are pissed, by the way. I'm already seeing tweets of a top 30 defensive end getting paid top 2 money. Yeah, not all is roses over there in Giants land right now.
And here, look, as some of this so much has to do with it's called a desirability bias. And our desirability bias was we invested a first-round pick in Brian Burns a long time ago. He's been a captain of this team. He's been a name and a player that we thought that the Carolina Panthers had hoped to build their defense around. And really, I think the Brian Burns love and that desirability bias only went up after we decided to let Hassan Reddick go. Because it was a signal, or at least to Panther fans, is they thought, look, regardless of Hassan Reddick getting home a little bit more, the Panthers believe that Brian Burns is a more complete defensive player and one that you are going to be able to build this defense around. But I don't know if the Panthers felt that way entirely as they continue to negotiate. And it really comes down to, yes, I mean, you want to play these, you want to pay players, you want to sign players, you want to keep getting good, and you hate to see your good players walk out the door. But this is a number right here that would really hamstring the team's ability to grow incrementally. Right. And not only through free agency, but the ability to just fill out the roster, put players around. And then all we're going to hear is, he doesn't have anybody around him. The number's 252-228-5098. Frankie Luvu's a commander. Brian Burns, top 30 defensive end, top 2 money. Right. This is what happens when you buy. Man, they're buying high. And, the other thing with that desirability bias is that we want to continue to, because we desire him to be good. We desire him to be successful. As you say, he's young and there's potential. You know what? I'm so sick of potential. I'm so sick of this. And, if I have to see one more, I saw some now, the poor Panther fans. I've been removing myself from some of the little arguments, like these continued arguments over speculation, like what could be, what it, what. And I saw some people going nuts. They were arguing with their full force and might that J.C. Horn was a great corner. And they always caveat when he's on the field.
When he's healthy.
But that's been 6 games. So, I mean, I can show you a quarterback who's played great for 6 games, and he sucks. I can show you any player who's played great for 6 games, very good. Hey, Gardner Minshew has had 6 great games in his career. Are you ready to build your franchise around him? The Las Vegas Raiders might be doing that. Let's continue with the calls.
C3 family, what's up? Colby from Greenville.
Colby, what up?
We've been wanting this day for a while. Even if you don't feel like we got what we deserve for Brian Burns, take the initial thought of what I had when all of this shit started. Maybe in the middle of the season, you saw it was going downhill and he needed to go. It's not about Brian Burns' current value. What I'm worried about and what the matter of the situation is, down the road, by the time when the Panthers are right and we're making the playoffs, we're winning the divisions like we're supposed to, 3 and 5 years, Brian Burns is not going to be the player he is now. So paying $150 million for that, man, is just absolutely ludicrous. Keep pounding. Love y'all. Thank you for everything.
8 defensive picks in a draft, just in the 2020 draft, and there's really nobody but Derek Brown to show for it. This team right now has nothing. They have nothing. Right now, they've got Bryce Young. And today, I think prioritizing signing a guard, continuing, it looks like maybe to develop that offensive line. They have different plans for going forward. Says that's the only future we have for us right now. Yeah. That is the star to guide our ship towards Brian Burns. 150. Look, this to me is like buying a house. A starter home that was $140,000 6 years ago is now $250,000. It's the same house, though, folks. Mm-hmm. It's the same house. You're buying at a peak time here. You are buying peak Brian Burns. Now, you can argue that the Carolina Panthers could have gotten this deal done last season. Hey, I'm down for it. I still don't think the argument that they didn't get enough is really all that valid. I think maybe if you want to say, well, the 5th round pick is in 2025, so it's really just a second round pick. I think getting a 39 overall is a good deal. Will the Bengals take a 33 for T. Higgins right now? And then you keep the 39. Will the Carolina Panthers double dip at wide receiver at 33 and 39? Some ways to go there.
We have options, but that's the point now, Tony. Now that you have a new GM in Dan Morgan, now you're giving him more tools to be able to play and move around. Now we might not have to decide between an inside linebacker that we need or a center that we need and that wide receiver that everybody wants. Now we might be able to fill a couple of those needs. Maybe this is enough to go out and get a T. Higgins. I'm a Panthers fan. If we get T. Higgins, I'm buying that jersey immediately, bro. Like, you have to do right by Bryce Young. And listen, I already see it in the chat room. There's a bunch of people saying that we gave up Brian Burns to build around Bryce Young. And it's like they don't even believe in Bryce. Whether or not you believe in him or not is entirely besides the point. It's beside the point. As an organization, you have to do right by your franchise quarterback, the guy that you just traded so much to go up and get, only to be the worst team in the NFL that very season after you couldn't protect him and couldn't put weapons around him. Dan Morgan is trying to make up for the sins of the 2023 season. And to this point, I think he's doing a damn good job.
I want to address DJ the Kid 91's comment. He says, the star y'all don't even want. Y'all don't want Bryce. Y'all hate on him at every turn. First thing, when I say a star, I mean like you're guiding, like your North Star, where you're charting your course to. Number 2, I'd like to go ahead and remind you guys that the compilation of this podcast and all the people in the chat is not one single voice, one single look, right? If anything, look is CK very a big defender of Bryce Young consistently throughout. You've got Cody, who has had his questions about whether or not he can be or will be good and if it was the right pick. And then you got me. And I'm going to tell you this is my position on Bryce Young is very similar to Brian Burns in a way. And that is, I'm just not going to go and tell you this guy's elite until he is.
Right.
Right. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to, I mean, like, hey, is you know what? But here, and you said it, Cody, is it doesn't matter if he's going to be good or great or regular or terrible. You invested in it. You bought the house. Now you've got to live in it. And look, is that whether or not Bryce Young is, I just am to the point where I've been doing this long enough, folks. I'm not hot taking it for you. I'm not going to hot take it. Maybe that's what I need to do to get more traction. Maybe that's why we are just an incrementally growing podcast, because I'm not a hot taker. But I won't sign up and say any of these players are generational talents. I won't say that they are a guy that is a can't miss or a can't this. And I also am not going to pull the rug out from a player after a single season. That's the one thing I'm not going to go. And if anybody on this podcast, I would say that my position of Bryce Young has changed very little throughout the very first year of his career. If anything, I might be slightly heartened by his performance. Yes. Was it less than desirable statistically? Was I hoping it would be more from him? I was hoping this team would be better. So don't worry. There's a lot of mugs that left me going, I wish there was going to be more. But to be honest, I don't feel like when I looked at Bryce Young that I go, I don't know if he can do it. I didn't walk away with that. I think I saw some signs that he can be a good quarterback in this league, but there's going to have to be a lot of other things that happen. I thought there was some mental toughness that he showed. I thought there was a lot of physical toughness that he showed, but I also thought that he showed you guys this, is that just because you guys want to suck off a person because of some draft guy that told you this or that, is he has his own limitations as well. His height, okay, that's not even the biggest one. But look, you traded a lot for Bryce. You build your teams around quarterbacks. I would much rather this team to give everything, their full faith and confidence in Bryce Young, and it fail, than for them to set him up in a situation where he can't succeed.
Right. And again, no one's like doing backflips over Bryce at this point, unless you're like a super fan of him. But
desirability bias.
Yeah, we all pretty much agree, though, that if he's going to have a chance, you have to give him a chance. How long did we watch Cam Newton have to carry an offense after they failed to put good wide receivers and good O-line help around him for outside of a year or two?
And
but you have to do
these special
things.
Player that could actually do it.
Yes.
Right.
Whereas Bryce doesn't have those physical gifts that
he can't run off 100 yards. And you can't say this is we're going to make you the play. He needs, you couldn't ask Tom Brady to do that.
Right. And now this is what
Cam
we're doing.
Newton kind of screwed us in some ways for that, is because he was so exceptionally awesome, because he was so big and so crazy athletic. You could get, you had Brian Bell at left tackle.
Yeah,
you went to the Super Bowl with Philly Brown. Where were all the people saying, get Cam a star?
Rimmers.
Get Cam a star. We didn't even have that conversation as Panther fans until we realized it was too late. And that's why we celebrate, or I think a lot of people celebrate Brandon Beane in Buffalo, because I thought when he went and traded for Stephon Diggs, that was him taking a lesson from what they did with Cam Newton.
Yes, and what they didn't do with Cam Newton.
Right, exactly.
AWS Drummer 25 with the $4.99 says, y'all, I'm hurting. I'm fine with Burns leaving, but Luvu leaving is eating my soul. We could have easily afforded him. What do we think about that? Could we have easily afforded him? I tend to agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying it from a purely sentimental perspective, in that I love what Frankie Luvu was able to do for us. He was the most consistent defensive player on 3 different coaching staffs, and the man was from the New York Jets, came over here. No one expected anything from him, and all he ever did was prove his leadership and toughness down in, down out. So for those reasons, I hate to lose him. And it's another position in our linebacking core that we have to fill now. But I don't know. What would you rather have on the team right now? Frankie Luvu, or the money that he frees up that you're going to be able to potentially use on another player?
Can I ask you first, how long do you think it is before we become a legitimate team again? Like how many years do we have before we're contending?
Man, I'm hoping at least 2. 2
Right.
at the
So
least.
The short.
Luvu.
Do you think the short time is
Shortest.
2 years?
Right.
Yeah.
Luvu's already aging, right? He's a bit of an older player. I just think at this point in time, we need to be able to build. I think, and again, if we go after Patrick Queen, this is all out the door, right? My thinking here. But I believe you need to draft these guys and you've got to develop them. I think you have to trust, now that we have a new regime, you have to trust that we're able to draft the guys that are going to be impactful on this team. And the only way to know that is to have them play. How many times have we let potentially good players just not get an opportunity, and they never do anything? They never have the short amount of time they are able to get an opportunity is not enough for them to really understand the game. I think this is the best way you're going to be able to develop your players, is that you're going to have to build them through the draft. You're going to have to build depth. Right now, we were a shell. Even if we were a good team last year, if all the pieces were there, we were a shell. We had no depth whatsoever at any position. And right now, this is the best way to do that.
With Luvu, we liked Luvu because he was a player out there making plays, visually noticeable plays on a team where no one did anything visually noticeable.
Right.
Someone said that, we let go of our guy who had the most interceptions last year in Von Bell. Okay. I don't remember him being a ball hawk by any means. But look,
who on this team was memorable at all?
Yeah,
like nobody was memorable.
When it comes to Luvu, though, is yes, could you afforded that deal? I think you could have. And I do think it would have been nice to have somebody that we could latch onto on this defense, because like people are saying, you're blowing up the defense, right? But I don't really have a problem blowing up something that wasn't good anyway. Right. And look, here, we'll take this call. We'll take this call and we'll talk about it. We want to talk about Robert Hunt's deal. But when it comes to Luvu, my point when it comes to Luvu is, while it stinks because we were rooting for him, he does the haka or whatever it is, and it's cool. And he plays like kind of that Thomas Davis, like with disregard, like a maniac when he's like tackling people.
Throwing his body at opponents.
Linebacker is something you can actually replace through the draft with an immediate return. Like, people are saying you can draft a defensive end in the second round and then plug and play. I think it's going to be harder. Look, Brian Burns was a 16 overall pick, and it's taken him time. And you know what? They said for his first 2.5 years, he was a liability on the run defense, or, it was this, and he's gotten better at that. Right. But it takes time for that. If anything, that's the defensive position that's harder for rookies to come in and make a pure difference. I think linebacker, look, you saw it. Look out. Levante David came into the league. He was a first round pick, but no, he wasn't. Levante David was a third round pick. I'm thinking the other guy, White. Which one was White? For Tampa, remember they had the 2 linebackers where they were shooting up the ranks. So I think that Luvu is, Devin White is. I think it's more easier to replace.
Well, that's why the market isn't super large for him right now.
Exactly. Here, let's hear. We got a caller that wants to talk about this defense.
Hey guys, anybody who says this was a top 5 defense is absolutely loony. This was not a top 5 defense. The only way it looked like a top 5 defense was because the numbers, and let's face it, if teams had wanted to run it up on us, they could have. Also, remember, teams in the second half were pretty much just bleeding out the clock, trying to get out of the games without injury. If this was in college, we would have had some 77 to 17s and 77 to 9. Believe you me, guys, this is not a top 5 defense. It's a mirage. It's probably a mid-level defense, and they overachieve for what they are. But when people aren't testing you, you can't say that you passed it.
Tell us, DJ, the kid, call in.
He's basically using Google and saying what rank, and they're using some metric to try to same thing they did 2 years ago. Total yards or something like that, right?
Total yards.
And it's we've been saying it for
with 17 points.
We've been saying this for months. It is fool's gold. Do not look at the stats and think that that's logical. We had the fewest pass attempts against our defense of any team by a large margin, right? When you're talking about that, we had more rushes against us than any team by a large margin because people didn't have to pass the ball against us. They didn't have to get a tremendous amount of yardage against us. If you honestly looked at that team last year and said, that's a top 5 defense, you're fooling yourselves. The top 5 defenses, the Ravens, the 49ers, like those are legit top 5 defenses. The Panthers weren't even close. Tell me where they were in turnovers. Go ahead and Google that little stat right there.
I tell you, I don't need to Google shit, bro. I watch those games, and we break down this. That isn't even a top 5 Panther defense in the last 10 years.
Yes.
You know, as I could tell you, I've seen Panther defenses, and don't be like, oh, we didn't score any points. That's the reason. Yeah, I mean, that is part of it. I've seen Panthers win games 12-9 before and this and that. Look, the Panthers weren't good at all at any place on this team. Now, people keep question is, how can you continue to trade away your good players and think that you're going to be good? I think the only good player that we traded away is, to me, CMC. And I think is that you say here, the problem with CMC is, I mean, okay, you want to say DJ Moore. DJ Moore, very good player. But is DJ Moore, is he a top 5 receiver in this league? No, he's not. He's a very good receiver. He's a very good receiver. I would have liked to keep DJ Moore, right? But I do think it's easier to replace DJ Moore than it is. I think it's possible to replace him. Now, Christian McCaffrey, did we go and do it? No, we didn't. The problem with the Christian McCaffrey trade is you had to continue to pay so much of his guaranteed contract. You still traded him away.
On top of that, now hindsight shows that we didn't do well with the picks we got from Christian McCaffrey.
Right. Exactly.
And we should have sent Brian Burns to Chicago.
Right.
We should have kept DJ Moore and sent Burns to Chicago.
Right. And you can look at every one of these things and you can say, if the Panthers had picked a guy who was a very good player, well, now it doesn't look like that bad of a deal. But when you actually look at what we did as a bad front office the past 4 years, then yeah, that Christian McCaffrey, trade looks absolutely horrendous. Absolutely god awful, because DJ Johnson was the only thing you really can point to what we got for him.
Yeah, this has been a calamity of errors in a lot of ways. The Panthers have not drafted well, but one of the things, if you do like Bryce Young, and if you do think trying to stake your claim and plant your flag with a quarterback, some of these things you have to do. Some of these, some of those picks were traded away with the idea of us finding a way to move up to get a quarterback. So, yeah, did they make the most out of their picks? They have not. But look, it's not just bad trades. They've had bad drafts even without trades, right? And this is why the Panthers aren't good. The Panthers aren't good is because they've missed in too many places. They've missed in free agency additions trying to bolster their team, whether it be from a Thielen. Well, I think Thielen actually statistically put up fine numbers, but from Hayden Hurst to whoever, to Miles Sanders. So you missed in free agents the year before with your tackles and your whatever, and you're missing in the draft. So you can't swing and miss all the time and then expect to get hits, right? It's just impossible. The Carolina Panthers, though, aren't good. They're not good. Tell me this top 5 defense that has even a good player on it. I mean, it's Derek Brown.
Derek Brown
is the only one. You don't even have a cornerback on this team that's a starter right now.
Do we think that now that this has happened, that maybe a Derek Brown deal could be forthcoming? What do we think?
I don't. Well, I look.
Yes, I think it is.
Okay.
I think it is. I don't think that this front office wants to be in the same situation next year with Derek Brown that they're in with Brian Burns right now.
But I think you got to be really cautious signing Derek Brown on the heels of that Chris Jones deal.
Well, it's not going to get any cheaper next year. It's only going to go up.
Well, if maybe the defensive tackles kind of just level out. Chris Jones just signed a $150 million deal of his own. He's 30 years old. I don't know. I don't know if the Panthers are ready to invest a ton of money on anybody, but then I say that, and you guys, we look at the figures that Robert Hunt got with $100 million. That's a lot of money for a guard. The way this contract, he's basically getting Brian Burns money over the first 2 or 3 years. The thing, though, there is that the Panthers are also going to have to overpay free agents to come here.
Yeah.
And so if any, that's part of it. But I think this is that I bet you last year they started, I think, 8 right guards and 7 or 9 left guards, like a different combination. The Panthers have to find some continuity on the offensive line if they want to make movements forward as a team. And I tell you, that is just as important as, if not more important than paying Brian Burns the bag. Or, I mean, I guess, look, I don't know. What else should they have done? What should they have done, folks? Should they have signed? Should they have paid Brian Burns? Should they have not traded away these people in the past? Perhaps we can't talk about that anymore. What you have to talk about is, how did the Panthers go forward? And if anything that's more concerning or disconcerting or interesting to me is, how are you approaching this rebuild as you jettison everybody? There's not a single player that we're going to know on this team other than Bryce Young. And that's it next year going forward. We got calls coming in. Let's start plowing through them.
Hey, guys, by the way, Brian Burns, get ready for the media attention like you've never had, and scrutiny like you've never had, and fans all
Panther
over your
fans
ass
are rude
when you get to New York. If he doesn't look like LT this season, they will all be burning that man in effigy.
Yeah.
New York fans do not care. You get that kind of money, they expect production. They don't care. Good luck, Brian Burns. You just went to the one place that they tear up professional players if you don't live up to the contract.
All right, thanks. I mean, is you think that the scrutiny from Carolina Panther fans, I tell you, his brother is going to have to go put some armor on.
He already took Hype Man out of his name on Twitter.
Oh,
so
I believe it.
I guess it's no longer the Panthers hype.
I think he knows. Yeah, I think he understands. They're getting ready to go to a market where this the Spidey Burns will probably work out because it's New York and everything.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
But the height, the kind of the hype man aspect, like being you're a small town. You're small time in that city right now. I hope
he puts up big numbers. I hope he puts up
turf.
The
turf at MetLife Stadium is some of the worst in all the NFL.
I also shared something in Four Horsemen. If you want to put it up, it's going to just flame the fires at this point, or fan the fires at this point.
All right, let's take a call as you gather that material, Cody.
Hey, C3, this is your girl, Kristen. Pretty sure y'all know why I'm calling. Make it make sense, Carolina Panthers.
Sorry,
Frankie Luvu, really, y'all? Ian Thomas, 3 more seasons, but bye-bye to Frankie? Seriously? My man, Dan Morgan, what the hell? I remember you wanting dogs, and Luvu was that dog, but whatever. Anyways, I gotta admit, I am upset, but not as upset, only because My second NFL team is Washington because I was raised a Washington Redskins fan. So thank God I can still buy myself a Luvu jersey. Anyways, I had to call because I know some of y'all know that is my Panther hubby, and he's not a Panther no longer. I am definitely upset about it, for sure. And I want to cuss so bad, but I'm a lady, and I'll be polite. But anyways, I just wanted to say, hey, y'all, love to all of my C3 family. Keep pounding.
The New York Giants now acquire. Look, they got some names. Look, if anything, now the good news about what they're doing is you're talking about building a young defensive front that's talented up there in New York with Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, and Brian Burns. The difficult part for that team is that they struggled against the run last year themselves. They lost to Xavier McKinney today as a safety who got paid. You want to talk about you guys are upset. Look, McKinney got 4 years, $68 million. That's a lot of money for a safety out there. But you got Brian Burns and Thibodeau. You know, to me, that line might look a lot like the Panthers line looked with Hassan Reddick.
Yeah.
And Brian Burns.
I agree.
You can pin your ears back. You got so much speed. But the question is now you're going to have Saquon running at you in Philly. Against you in Philly. It's how do you beat teams like that? You run the football at them.
And potentially, and he's going to be facing the Cowboys, and they have an outstanding offensive line. And we'll see what the Commanders do. But I think that's worthy of a conversation because, you're going to be going against Saquon. But now also the Cowboys have an open spot at their running back position, and they're potentially in the running for players like Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones now that he's released. So, yeah, he's going to be facing a couple of these guys and great offensive lines. That's really going to be his impact.
I just have a hard time believing that Giant fans are going to be content with an offensive line where your two defensive ends, one getting paid $150 million, puts up like a total of 22 sacks. Right? So say they get 10 from Burns and 12 from Thibodeau or vice versa. I think that you're going to continue to say is, you need that in this league. You need pass rush. You need this. But, man, to pay the most money for marginal returns is it's like paying Kirk Cousins. By the way, Kirk Cousins now an Atlanta Falcon coming off an injury. Love Kirk Cousins, though, by the way. And the reason I love him is that man has made more money than anybody, dude. This guy knows how to get paid. He gets paid.
Does he scare you with the Falcons? He sure doesn't fucking scare me. He scares me as much as Derek Carr and the Saints scare me, which is fucking not at all.
Way better
Dude,
than
he is
Derek
way
Carr.
better than Derek Carr.
I hate to tell you, he's already beat the Panthers by himself a couple of times. Remember
It's the Falcons. They're perennial underachievers.
Drake
Kirk
London,
Cousins,
Bijan
Kirk
Robinson.
Cousins is the definition of a perennial under contender. Dude, this is like
Kirk Cousins is not an underperformer.
I think he's an overperformer, if anything.
Bro,
drafted in the fifth round, lasted longer than RG3.
Short.
Okay. I think if anything, he's coming off an injury. That's going to be.
That's our hope. That's
the real thing is. But Kirk Cousins, he plays, bro, and they ran that entire offense through him and Justin Jefferson, and he was able to answer the call over the last 3 years. He's gotten to be a far more improved player. If you think of Kirk Cousins 5 years ago and the Kirk Cousins of the last 2 years, they're two different players. Let's keep going through with these calls. They're rocking and rolling in. Anthony, they're coming. You're on the way.
What's up, C3? Now one of Charlotte Sports 1. Now one of Kyle. Here we are.
Hello, Kyle.
And let me just start this call off by saying, keep fucking pounding. Let's go. This team, we may not have got the compensation that we probably should have got for Burns, but if we would have traded him last year, we could have. So really, we're just cleaning up the mistakes that Scott Fitterer made, and that's what it looks like Dan Morgan's doing, and Dave Canales has a plan. So whether we got what we were supposed to get or whether we didn't is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. This is where we are. I want to talk about where we go forward from here, because names are flying all over the place, and I don't think we're done by any stretch of the imagination. But let me just say, Peyton Wilson and whatever receiver we think is the top here at 33 and 39. Let's fucking go.
Is this Luke Combs? Is this the country singer Luke Combs?
Yeah, where it looks like it appears to be.
Yeah, it is.
It's got the little squigglies around the check mark, which means I think it's pretty good. What are we doing? Luke Combs mentions the Panthers. No first round pick for McCaffrey a few years back, and now none for Burns. Are we just firebombing the whole team here, or what? I usually don't comment on these things, but it's just becoming slow torture at this point. You're right about slow torture, but you're firebombing a team that was 2-15. That's what you do. You firebomb terrible teams.
YGM got paid $18 million for a two-year deal with the 49ers.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
YGM going to the San Francisco 49ers. YGM been a punching bag for a lot of Panther fans out there. They started to get a little quiet as YGM had some improved performances over this past season. But adding to the San Francisco 49ers defense, they continue to always reload on that defensive front or add players. They're going to have to replace Chase Young in some capacity. I like YGM as a player who's going to start coming into it a little bit, right? Is we tend to be so need immediate returns. But I'm telling you guys, defensive end is a tough position to transition to in the NFL from college to the pros. And what you find is there are a handful of people that can do it from the beginning. There are a few Myles Garretts. There are a few Jadeveon Clowneys. There are a few Julius Peppers. But even if you go back to the Brian Burns draft with Cleveland Farrell, Brian Burns, some of these guys are too light in the pants to go right out the gate into the NFL. I mean, yeah, Aiden Hutchinson, these are top players. So to think that you're going to get a guy in the second or third round and him come in and be a starter or be the best from day one, maybe it's possible, but it is super rare. I don't think YGM has been in a great situation from beginning to end. But also, I'm really impressed that he continued to develop despite some of the challenges going forward. Let's keep rocking.
I got some breaking news.
All right.
Former Panthers defensive end, Yatur Gross-Matos.
Oh, we just said that. Did you not listen?
Oh, did I? No.
DK just said it, and that's what we were just talking about. What are you like?
Well, I'm managing over there. Like 5 different things at the same time.
Nice job.
People are messaging me on Twitter, which, by the way, we have over 400 total people watching on Twitter. Holy shit. Rock on.
Right on. Hey, CK, did you hear YGM's going to be a 49er?
Did you tell me what happened with Brian Burns, though?
Breaking. Did Brian Burns get traded?
What?
I'm kind of curious on what's happened there.
That was funny. All right.
Yeah, I saw that for real.
I've been waiting 5 years to make this phone
shit,
call.
Here we go.
Hey. You know who the fuck it is. Booyaka, booyaka, booyaka!
Talk your shit, G.
You know who it is. It's your boy. G-Baby. What's good with my motherfucking dog? I've been waiting fucking 5 long years to make this motherfucking call, Brian Burns. Now, I hope you and your bitch-ass brother are listening, because once upon a time, your bitch-ass brother wanted to clown me on Twitter. Well, guess what, hype man Lucha? It's looking like I'm getting the last laugh, bitch. Fuck you and fuck your brother, nickel. Now to my fucking Carolina Panthers. Hey, it's time to give Dan Morgan some motherfucking credit. Hey, round of applause. Everyone stand the fuck up. Hey, Dan Morgan.
Hey, y'all. Darius Rucker here. A lot of people ask me, what inspires your music? And one of the big things is a strong sense of place. That's why I love my home state of South Carolina and want to share the awesome things it has to offer. From the beautiful mountains down to the sunny coast, it's got it all. Not to mention two of my personal favorites, great golf and amazing food. Come see why I love this place. Visit discoversouthcarolina.com.
Let's go.
Shit, G. Now this is what a rebuild is supposed to fucking look like. A true fucking rebuild looks like this. And everyone wanted to shit on Dan Morgan. What? Hell nah. That we ain't doing that shit today. Oh, no. No, the fuck we're not. We got a hog molly, a 6'6" gorilla nigga to protect Bryce. Keep the push, the interior line off my nigga. What? And then we sign Brian Burns knowing that every GM wants us to trade him, and we're able to get a second and a future fifth-round pick. I'm all for that shit. What? Now it's time to rebuild, baby. And that doesn't mean go throw a fucking bag at T. Higgins. Fuck that shit. We're doing this shit the right way. We're not going to throw a fucking bat. First of all, we got to trade him, which means we got to give him compensation. And then we got to fucking pay him. We're in a fucking rebuild. And so far, we've been doing it the right way. And we're going to continue to do it the goddamn right way. What's up with my motherfucking dogs? It's time to fuck. Hey, if you got Kool-Aid, I don't give a fuck if you got water, juice, liquor, anything. Put your fucking cups in the motherfucking air. And we're about to have motherfucking cheers. Cheers, motherfuckers. Yeah, motherfucker. Like fucking famous Jet Jackson, man. I've been gone for a little while, but you know, the real ones know where the fuck to find me. You know who the fuck it is. It's G, baby. I'm calling back.
G, baby. Oh, I agree with everything except for the T. Higgins thing. I'd be fucking lit if we could get T. Higgins on this team. I don't care what nobody says. My inner fanboy will have it no other way. But hey, dude, Tony, you've always said this about G, man. Like, love him or hate him, that dude, he sticks to his guns.
Oh, yeah.
And, bro, like, he's been right on a lot of shit, man. So at this point, he's allowed to talk his shit. Love him or hate him.
Yeah,
and we should, since there's probably a lot of people here who don't know.
G baby
is black.
G baby has
black.
Hold on, G baby has the right amount of melanin to say that word. I promise. Okay, I promise.
Here is this: is I just am not sad by anything. Who was it? You put out a tweet that was like, just whatever happens, I don't get upset. That's how I feel. Like, I'm not upset about any. This is Greg Allman. He, I believe, is a Tampa Bay reporter. He said Carolina had 3 players with more than 2 sacks last year. All 3 are gone today. Burns traded. Luvu, Gross-Matos signing elsewhere. Who cares? That you had to say this. You had 2 sacks. 3 players with 2 sacks. Good God. I mean, who do you love? I don't love anybody on this team. I don't love anybody.
Not now. I mean, right now, Derek Brown's my favorite player.
Muscle said that Italians.
Yeah, but I don't. But you know, I didn't say I meant.
That's totally true, actually.
I didn't say love with Derek Brown, but he is by far my favorite player. I hear you, man. We need something to hang on to, and right now we just don't have it, and that's why I am not gonna cry about Brian Burns going to get paid somewhere else. Let the New York Giants overpay Brian Burns.
Or hopefully they pay and he excels. I hope he excels. But you know what and now there is something to be said about paying people for future potential, not off of what they've done in the past. Right. And so some of the idea was, if you go back to the Christian McCaffrey 2000 season that he had in 2019, there was a cool tweet or a cool story. Actually, the guy wrote a whole story about how when you run into these 2,000-yard players at running back, that it's just impossible in many ways for them to replicate those numbers, right? And that you're paying them for what will arguably be their best season, and it will regress to the mean. And in some ways, you want to pay people before they hit the best season, and then you get the best season out of them. So certainly, maybe Brian Burns will become a top 5 edge rusher in this league. Maybe Brian Burns will become the friendly neighborhood Spidey Burns. Maybe Brian Burns will become a household name. But right now, what I would want to do is pay a player the bag when they have shown me that they are that player and there's still room for them to be better. Right now, I think you're paying with the belief that he can be great, not that he is great. And I mean, part of it's the market. Then people say, well, you know what? It's not going to be any cheaper next year. It's not going to be cheaper next year. Well, you know what? I think if the Panthers went and paid somebody next year $150 million top 2 money, and that person had under 10 sacks for most of their career, I would be less than thrilled.
I mean, they're paying $30+ million a year for potential.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Let him pay for all that potential, and hopefully he can live up to it there. He never did here. And let no one tell you that he did.
All right. Let's take another call here.
Happy free agency, boys. It's Nick from Seattle. What it do? Let's jump in. I am stoked about Robert Hunt. Giving $20 million a year to a guard, yeah, it's not fun, but we got to overpay. That's just where we're at right now.
Yep.
It seems that we are moving heavily toward just building an offense and by whatever means necessary. I'm not happy with the total compensation we got back for Brian Burns. I mean, a second and a fifth. And if I recall correctly, you guys will have to correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that fifth is until next year. So we only got one pick in the upcoming draft from that trade. But at the same time, we were about to, we could have either paid him $25 million this year or lost him for nothing. Paying him $25 million on a team that's going to be the ceiling for our team next year is 5 wins. That's the ceiling. And it doesn't make sense paying one edge rusher that much money. So we have to get what we can get. Now there's talk we can either flip that other second we got for T. Higgins or for somebody. I think we should just try to double dip at receiver in the draft with those 2 second-round picks. If we can't get one of the centers at the top of the second, we just can't afford to be paying players that aren't going to be here when we're ready to compete. You know, we can't keep restructuring injured players and players who aren't going to be part of our future. That's why I'm cool with all the cuts we made. Von Bell, Dante, everybody. They were not going to be part of the long-term solution, so they're out the door. This is just, in my opinion, Dan Morgan and Dave Canales coming in saying, fuck Scott Fitterer. I saw a tweet today that was so bold to me that I was dying when I saw it. It said, I will never forgive Scott Fitterer. And I was dying because I'm in the same boat. I got so many people asking me talking about we had a top 5 defense, and I'm with y'all, and I'm especially with my man CK saying it's fool's gold. I've been spitting out all the advanced stats all year about, no, our defense has been trashed for years. It's just been a misconception. So we still got a lot more to go, but man, it's great to finally see this team in front office embracing the teardown. David Tepper should slap a Band-Aid on that bitch and roll it back out there. We're good to go. We need to win right now when we were nowhere near being competitive. Now we are truly the dumpster of the NFL, and we're slowly building it back. You know what the best part about being red rock bottom is, boys? You can only go up. Keep pounding. Let's go.
Shout out these super chats for me.
Yes, sir. A3 Big Panda with the $5. This is getting over losing Burns right now, but losing Frankie Luvu broke my heart. It's the death of our identity. How can we maximize our draft picks as it is right now? That's going to be the $1 million question going forward, boys, is what do we do with this new draft capital, right? Now, people will say it's not enough, that we should have gotten more, but it's the 39th pick. That is a valuable pick, and if you play your cards right, you should be able to get 2 starters in the second round relatively close to one another. You also have the option of potentially trading one of those picks for your wide receiver of choice. I kind of think that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to have to come down on their price for T. Higgins. I do not think they're going to get a first, just like Brian Burns wasn't going to fetch a first. Or if they just don't want to pay that amount of money right now, just draft 2 players in the second round that you intend to be a starter this next year.
We had to listen to the last 4 years of people saying that YGM sucks. And now that he's gone, the Panthers are through. Come on. Man, there is nothing that can't be replaced on this team.
There's no justification for that argument at all.
No. But I think we need to have this conversation about.
I want you to tell us about this. Tell us what this is, CK.
So Cody alluded to it. Some of the Giants fans being upset. Being 30th in the league as far as a defensive end, getting paid top 2 defensive end money. When you look at the stats, it is honestly concerning what people are like clamoring to hold on to. And again, Brian Burns, I don't think he's a bad player, but I think to Cody's point, I really don't know that I can point to a time when I felt like Brian Burns was the reason we won a game. Like, it's just, I've seen so many times where we were close to winning a game because Brian Burns was close to getting a strip sack or close to getting a sack.
He's the king of almost.
He earned that for the first 4 years. I mean, really, I guess first 3 years of his career as a defensive end he was the king of almost. And when you look at this, I mean, he was even his best year, which was in 2022. And I think that that wasn't Hassan Reddick.
Yes.
Hassan Reddick was here in 2021 because he and Burns, Hassan Reddick outplayed Burns in that year.
He had 12.5. That was the Reddick season. It should have been. Anyway.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. You're right. No, because Reddick's been with the Eagles 2 years now.
So he only had 9 sacks
with Reddick opposite of him. Yes. So
do any of those numbers indicate a player that should be paid the second highest edge money in the NFL? No.
He had 8 sacks in 2023. I don't know why they got him at 9. At least according to Pro Football Reference.
So then they fluffed up his numbers too much. See, they're not even that good. It's like, I don't understand the people that are just complaining about it. I'm 100% sure, Tony, that this is just people that are tired of trading away our big name players. And I understand that, man. You put so much effort and you pay for the jerseys and, you try and love these players, even though our football team is just ass. And they end up going on to other places. And more often than not, they're going to thrive with other teams. And
how do you make a Pro Bowl with 9 sacks?
Well, remember, Hassan Reddick got robbed because that year, Hassan Reddick had like 11 or 12 or some shit like that. And he didn't make the Pro Bowl, even though he was the best pass rusher on our team. By the way, Hassan Reddick is another player that I use to justify not paying Brian Burns. Hassan Reddick was a better player than Brian Burns on not 1, not 2, but 3 different football teams. The Arizona Cardinals, the Carolina Panthers, and the Philadelphia Eagles. And you put more numbers than Brian Burns up in all 3 of those seasons.
By the way,
Hassan Reddick has had 4 seasons with over 11 sacks and 11 or more sacks.
He asked a question, and I think it might be the biggest question that he isn't going to win the argument on, and it's how many times did Luke win a game for us? And I can direct you to one.
I would say Thanksgiving against the Dam.
A ton of them.
Thanksgiving against the Cowboys, he had 2 interceptions returned for a touchdown. I can tell you this. If you want to talk about him winning a game, go back to 2015 when the Panthers were synonymous. We were a great team, but we were very known for letting teams come back and almost win games. Go back to that Colts Monday night game. It was raining, and we were up by like 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter or in the third quarter, at half at least. And we let them tie it and take us into overtime. And the reason we won was a Luke interception in the overtime. You're welcome.
Well, I think another thing when it comes to this tweet that goes up here is that one of the we hear this is sacks aren't everything, and that's true, right? Is that a player has to be able to do more than just get home, right? But when you look at some of these other numbers here, they're less, whether it be QB hits, whether it be pressures. His pressure rate isn't incredible. Again, I'm ready to walk right off the 2023 season because everything was so bad. So, I mean, those numbers are going to be worse than what he really is. This is what is wild, though, because we keep hearing people say he's a two-time Pro Bowler, right? In 2021, when Hassan Reddick was there, Hassan Reddick had 2 more sacks than he did. He had 20 more tackles than he did. He had 12 tackles for loss. Brian Burns had 13. Brian Burns had 18 QB hits. Hassan Reddick had 18 QB hits. They both had 2 forced fumbles. I just don't understand why Brian Burns makes the Pro Bowl that year and Hassan Reddick doesn't when the statistics are better.
Gardner Minshew, which had a great year last year. Gardner Minshew was a Pro Bowler.
Yeah,
don't read too much into it. But my point being, it's being a Pro Bowl nom, it doesn't mean what it used to. It's a high accolade, yes, but 1, the Pro Bowl is a joke. And 2, the voting is a popularity contest.
Cody,
it feels like every year there is a player that doesn't go to the Pro Bowl when they're more than deserving of it. I mean, even that first year that Brian Burns made it to the Pro Bowl, Hassan Reddick was the better player, and he didn't go to the Pro Bowl.
Somehow Frank Wright got voted as one of the best coaches in the league this year.
Hold on, Cody. I'm going to let you check the Friday free-for-all and let you break this because last time I did with YGM, you just repeated what we said 5 minutes later.
Okay. Wait, what? Which one? About the free-for-all chat?
Yeah.
Oh.
NFL notifications, who have, by the way, been on point all day before a lot of people have been.
Oh shit. Now
it says rumor alert.
The Panthers and Bengals have been in trade discussions for much of today. The Panthers gained more draft capital today that can be used in a potential deal that would send T. Higgins to Carolina. Bengals' original demand was for both of the Panthers' second-round picks, but it will likely end up being similar to what the Panthers got to give Brian Burns a second and a fifth. Oh, shit. I think this is happening. I think their mission from jump was to get a top-flight wide receiver for Bryce Young, and that's what Dan Morgan is doing, boys. I'm into it. Dude, and is a Clemson player? Bro, my man Dan Morgan is out there hunting for dogs. What's up? Dogs.
All right, let's keep. Here's Anthony from Charlotte. I know he's ready to have his
dog.
Yo, what's up, C3? It's Anthony from Charlotte. Hope y'all boys are having a good Monday. Surprise show y'all got going on. We appreciate it. Just want to give my thoughts, man. It's finally over. Brian Burns is traded. Surprising that the Giants wanted to trade for him when they're in a rebuild. Kind of we're the same situation we are. And before I get into like my thoughts on the actual trade, I just want to say this. Brian Burns is still going to get 8 to 10 sacks a season, and I'll tell you why exactly. I know he's got better players on his defensive line, but here's why. The Giants offense fucking sucks now that they don't have Saquon Barkley. So why are we supposed to expect that teams are going to throw the ball when they're up on them as well? It's the same situation. The only difference is he went there because he got $150 million fucking dollars. Okay. We weren't going to pay that. That is absolutely ridiculous. And for all the people saying he didn't want $30 million, yeah, take one up the ass, you sons of bitches. Sick of these fans, man, caping for these damn players when they're not as good as everyone makes them out to be. Then the second thing I gotta say is we were never getting a first-round pick for Brian Burns. Okay, we never were. Not after he lost all the leverage. Dan Morgan did a great job with this. He's really I'm starting to like some of the things he's doing around here. The guard that we signed, top tier. He's worth the money. You got to pay a Tepper tax too. Then you get a second and a fifth round. Hey, dude, just flip one of those for Higgins now. I know, but we got the space. You have the cap space. We're going to have a ton of space once other players are cut. You're going to be able to go sign offensive players galore, especially next year. Like, this is all what we talked about. Build around Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young's going to have a great season this year. They're going to continue to upgrade the offensive line and get him weapons with a better play caller. It looks good. But a second and fifth round pick for Brian Burns, dude, that's completely fine. The only person you should be mad about in this situation is Scott Fitter, because he had no idea what he was doing, because he didn't know what a timeline meant with a rebuild, or he just didn't even know what the plan of his tenure was going to be. Like, he should have traded Brian Burns. And Cody said it earlier in the show. If Dan Morgan was the GM, who knows? Who knows? He probably would have taken that deal. And I'm telling you, this new regime is different, because Dan Morgan's paying top dollar for top dollar players, and he's not paying top dollar for not top dollar players. Remember, Samir Suleiman didn't want to pay Burns either. Those are my thoughts, but I think we're slowly heading in the right direction. And the last thing I do have to say, hey, fans, isn't it kind of funny how you guys are day late, dollar short to every conversation, like I brought up 2 weeks ago in my call? Anyone with bright eyes knew this was a rebuild. Sorry that you guys have to convince yourself otherwise, because that's the only way we get hope. Well, my hope is in the future. Anthony from Charlotte, keep motherfucking pounding.
Thanks for
pounding
for the call, Anthony.
Shout out to my free-for-all Warriors, boy, out here doing it big. They've been in Sheena spaces. They've been killing the spaces on Twitter. D's, Anthony, Pickle, JJ, Cole, Jake. Shout out to my free-for-all Warriors, bro. Y'all the real ones.
Thanks, Pickle, too, for sending us the details of the Robert Hunt contract. And while it is a very expensive contract for a guard, you're going to have to.
Whoa, Tony, I have to interrupt you for this one, brother. I have to interrupt you for this one. Mr. Strats, my boy Strats, with the $50 love bomb. Says, after last year, I learned none of any of this matters. We won't truly know if any of these moves will pay off until a few games into the season. We can't judge any of these moves until we physically see the product a few weeks into the regular season. C3 with the big old heart. Shout out to Strats, my boy, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you so much for your generosity. You can support the show by smashing the thumbs up button, subscribing. If you do feel generous like Mr. Stats, you can consider being a C3 Superfan for $1.99 a month. Help us continue to grow throughout the offseason, or consider a super chat as we go forward. Some of the contract, though, if we look at this, is the Panthers really only locked up for 4 years on this and able to get out after 2027. So 4 years with this starting guard, really escalating over the first 3 years. And in the third and the fourth year, you could probably start to restructure or consider, moving on. He's going to be 31 in 4 years. It's not a terrible 28 years old for a guard, a guy who has had incredible numbers. And you want to put up the numbers. Somebody had it in, I think it was Paul Mancini, actually, who put this up earlier in the chat. And while he just popped up there, perfect timing, is that while we're looking at these somewhat unimpressive Brian Burns numbers, when you look at Robert Hunt's numbers, he's given up 12 sacks over his entire career. He's had like a 97% win rate. Is this guy's getting it done? Thank you. In fact, CK, why don't you warm them pipes up and welcome our new C3 Superfan.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, we have a brand new C3 Superfan Club member. That is A3 Big Panda. He or she, I should state, has joined the C3 Superfan Club. Welcome into the club, and you can join for $1.99. Support the channel and all we do to try to keep you guys up to date and just entertained.
Looks like a guy according to the little profile picture, though. So I would assume, but we can be pretty confident there. Also, another super chat.
Yeah, the real HHENT with the $2 says Chin, Dante, Burns, YGM, Luvu, Bell, all on defense, gone.
Can I tell you what
That's
this
a
tells
good
me?
Where's Chin? Has he signed with anybody?
No,
No,
not
but
yet.
does anyone think that he's going to be back here?
Not
Maybe
right
if
now.
no one shows any interest.
This tells me, and I've been saying it all day with these moves. This is organizational tanking. This is what Cody has always said you do. If you want to be a franchise that is intending to not be a successful one for a year, to be able to try to build your team up with draft capital and what have you, you tank, right? These moves are not big money moves. The Dante Jackson doesn't really free up a tremendous amount of money that's making that like, oh, we need to make that a priority, right? The YGM, the Luvu, the Bell being gone, those aren't big money moves, right? That those guys are gone. This is a defense that they're number one. If Arrow can actually turn this team into a contending team on defense, it's a win-win. If they don't, and our offense takes a step forward, it's the way that I foresee this front office trying to make things happen. Whether it works or not, I don't know. My belief is they're trying to build this offense up while still losing games. And they want us to lose, potentially. I'm not saying for sure. I don't know that Dan is doing this, but this is just my prediction. Dan is...
Or knowing they can't win, to be honest, but so much.
But still not ruining your quarterback, right? If you can come out here and show life that Bryce Young is the guy, while also still having the ability to move forward, having future draft capital because you're not a good team, then that's a positive in every light. So I think that outside of this year, right? But I think that if I'm looking at right now, what we've had over the past 5 years is pieces of the puzzle, right? Pieces of a puzzle that are different puzzles, though. Like every year we've been building a new puzzle, but it's not the same one the year before. So we've just re-scrambled the puzzle pieces, tried to put them all back together, and that's all we've been doing. Now it feels like we've moved all those pieces off of the table, and we're starting to try to build from scratch again. And who knows? Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But that's what it kind of feels like. This exodus from our defenses look like that way.
DJ the Kid 91, thank you for your conversation in chat today. He said Evero should hand in his resignation today. In my opinion, he's just going to be scapegoat later. Negative, sir. Negative. He gets paid $9 million a year, one of the highest paid defensive coordinators in the league. This guy, if he resigns, he doesn't get paid. That's why he came back. That's why he didn't leave and go take a job with someone else, because he wouldn't get that $8 or $9 million a year. Certainly, Evero has got a tall task ahead of him, but we don't expect Evero really to be here in the long term if the Carolina Panthers weren't going to be successful in the short term. I think having him back was good. CK, warm the pipes up one more time. We got another super fan chambered up.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, we have one more super fan. Evan Javon has hit that join button. He has become a part of the elite group known as the C3 Superfan Club. Welcome aboard. Thank you for the support.
Let's go to Joey the Blind Panda. Joey the Blind Panda, a.k.a. Wakanda Forever.
Hey guys, it's the girl that makes them howl, aka Joey the Blind Panther. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think the Giants were going to be a team that would pull the trigger on Brian Burns, but hey, they did. And we got another second round pick this year, another fifth round pick next year, and now we have options. I put in the comments, this is what happens when you're a rebuilding team. If you want to get better, you have to trade your best pieces. You have to get rid of your best pieces because, they might be your best, but sometimes they're not the best.
Yep.
Like Brian Burns.
Great point.
If Brian Burns was the best, we would have paid him like it. But he's not, clearly. Because if he was, this probably wouldn't even be a conversation right now. He'd be the building block on the defense, but he's not. Because he takes plays off. which he admitted to doing, by the way. Okay, this is not just something I'm saying, but I noticed that. Even me as blind person,
He did admit to that.
listening to the game on the radio, Brian Burns would be a heat-seeking missile for like 1 or 2 series, and he'd just go to bed. Like he may or may not have been dressed. I mean, I'm sure he was dressed, but you know what I mean. So, yeah, it sucks to lose Luvu. That really does suck. Luvu was a great player, but again, you have to trade your great players so you can acquire more assets, to build for the future. It sucks, but that's the world we're living in because we didn't handle our riches when we had them. We didn't manage our riches correctly when we had them. So this is what we're dealing with now. Anyway, guys. Wow.
Yeah, shout out, Joey.
Oh, man. Did you see the Carolina Hurricanes have a beer hockey stick now? It's pretty cool.
Oh, what?
It's a hockey stick that is a cup. I'll show you this. Pretty neat. Pretty neato here. That's a hockey stick full of beer. Let's go to the next goal.
Baby, I'm motherfucking back like the fucking famous Jet Jackson, baby.
Oh, shit.
It's a
famous Jet Jackson. Shout out to my millennials.
Cody Lack. What's good with you, CK? That bald ass, shiny ass head. I love it, baby. And my white Italian brother, what's up? Fucking professor. What's good with my motherfucking dog?
My boy. This is my brother.
Oh, it's a fucking beautiful day in Carolina. This is the first time that I can remember being a fucking Carolina Panthers fan where we're actually making big moves. What? What? Are you kidding me right now, Carolina? Damn, Morgan, you kidding me?
You don't want to Higgins, though.
That's what I'm talking about, Dad. Y'all, I told y'all, this is a new fucking era in Carolina. This is a new regime in Carolina. I don't give a fuck who don't fucking like it. I don't give a fuck. Now it's time to double down, and it's time to surround Bryce Young, BY9, the truth, with some fucking weapons, man. And when I say double down, I mean double the fuck down in the second round. 33rd pick, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin, Jatavion Sanders. I don't give a fuck. Mix them, I don't care. I don't care. It's time to surround my motherfucking young nigga with some motherfucking talent. What's good with Panther Nation? What's up? I see a lot of you niggas yapping. I see a lot of you niggas yapping. What's good? Huh? And all you niggas down my motherfucking ass, what's up? Y'all was talking all that shit to your boy. Y'all was talking all that shit to G-Baby. G-Baby don't know shit. He don't know shit about the Carolina Panthers. That bitch ass nigga's just over there in Utah. The fuck y'all niggas, man. What's up?
This is over there in Utah.
Certain panel that continues to disrespect my nigga Cody Lack. Fuck you niggas.
Wait, who's disrespecting?
That's family to me, and I love that nigga.
Hey, appreciate you, my boy.
He has never treated me different, ever. He's always treated me the fucking same. And I fuck with you, Cody, till the day I fucking die, G.
Appreciate you, bro.
Nigga, G. I'm back like the famous Jet Jackson, and y'all know who the fuck this is. This free agency, and it's getting hot and juicy, baby. We over here selling the motherfucking hotcakes, baby. I'll be calling back because you know who the fuck it is. It's G-Baby, baby.
Do we have to put this?
I feel like every time he calls, we have to put it in the chat. G-Baby is a black man. He can say the N-word.
Somebody already put it in the chat, Tony.
You
That's
say
why
it
you're wondering.
that commonly. If you say it that,
somebody in the chat's already saying it.
This got me tripping right
Yo,
here.
shout out G motherfucking baby, bro. He's always fighting a war, fighting a battle, and hey, he comes up on the winning side most times. Wait, what are we looking at?
I think this is from the movie Road Trip a long time ago.
I love that movie.
And this says Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. Oh man. Oh, I love that. So just speaking of some of the news around the division, I saw Jameis Winston may be on the move to the Browns. It looks like they have some interest in him backing up Deshaun Watson. Kirk Cousins signs a big time deal, another 100 million or 84 million fully guaranteed. I think it might have been a 3 or 4 year deal, 3-year deal. So he's going to add, really what you're thinking of is them trying to build an offense that's kind of like a Sean McVay offense, which does benefit from a pocket passing quarterback that can push the ball down the field. And also Tampa Bay, real active in re-signing their individual players that were on their team. Baker Mayfield coming back on $100 million deal. Mike Evans coming back, and I think they nabbed a kicker or returned one of their kickers as well. We'll keep rocking and rolling. We're keeping you up to date with as much NFL news, specifically focused on the Carolina Panthers, as we can. As it breaks, we'll take another call here.
Hey guys, Daniel here. I just want to give my input on this. Some fans are delusional, man. Like, yeah, we get attached to a player, and then it's the end of the world. Guys gotta understand that, this Brian Burns situation, the Giants paying $30 million like that, that's insane. I mean, yeah, Burns is good with help, but without look at what's happened. It's not a player that's worth $30 million. I'm sorry, it's just not. And we were not going to get a first rounder for Brian Burns, and people continue talking about the bad decisions that we make. That last year, it was 2 first rounders, but that was Scott Fitter, Frank Reich, David Tepper. This is a whole new thing. Like, we can't base that on that. Like, we have to rebuild this thing, and unfortunately, this is what it's going to take. It is what it is. Have to go through these growing pains now. But as always, gentlemen, great job, and keep pounding.
Appreciate you, bro.
Monty out here again, taking shots immediately right at us. He said, these are the same guys. I love how he always uses plural here, right? So first of all, this is your tweet, but second, I'm with you. He said, these will be the same individuals crying about how bad our defense is in another 6 or 7 months. No, I won't, because I've been crying about how fucking bad the defense was this year, the year before. Suck all that. And it's like, man, come on.
These are the same people that bitch about how bad our offense is every single year, and they would make every excuse in the world for Bryce and tell you that he doesn't have enough fucking weapons around him. And then now we're doing all the necessary things to try and put weapons around them, and they're still bitching about it.
Can I also throw this out
Panthers, my last thought, if the Panthers are not going to be a contender next year, at least give us some fucking touchdowns, man. We have watched this inept offense for years now just be lifeless and dead on arrival. At least if we're going to be a bad team, let the defense just be terrible for a year, which I don't think they're going to leave it this way, and put some players on the offense, see what you have in Bryce. I'm done.
I'll put it out there like this. A lot of the times when people are that adamant, these are the people that, they're also the ones that can't point to a reason why you should have signed them to a $30 million, a year deal, right? You can't, the only thing you can say, and this is the argument that's hard to argue against, right, is we have nobody else. That doesn't mean he should be paid $30 million to be on the Panthers, right? You can't, again, we've talked about it ad nauseum. When you talked about him having a guy opposite of him in Reddick, he actually still didn't even get 10 sacks that year. Reddick outperformed him. You can talk about him being a Pro Bowl player, but in all reality, he wasn't really the best defensive end that we had. Reddick was completely robbed that year. He should have absolutely been in the Pro Bowl. And Brian Burns didn't, when you look at the numbers, they just don't lead to a situation where he was worthy of that type of a contract. Now, if another team is willing to pay him, I'm all for him going to get paid, and I'm hoping he plays up to that contract because I want him to be a successful player. But you can't point to a scenario where you feel like this dude is the guy. You really can't. Like, he's gone up. You can say he's taken double teams. We've looked at the film. There's plenty of times where he was not being double teamed at all, not being chipped, and he still can't get there against backup tackles.
Yes.
I'm not saying that he hasn't done some good things. I'm just saying he hasn't been a top five, or really, in my opinion, a top 10 defensive end in this league his entire career. And you can only point to 1 year where you felt like he was a game changer. And you can even be debating whether that was actually him or not. Right?
Yeah.
And can we just have a real simple conversation here? And I'm directing it to you, Monty, retired failed rapper in your bio, right? Can we rap about this part? Is it possible that it's just not the appropriate time for you to sign this type of deal for this player? Is it possible that another team can spend this money on Brian Burns and it be a logically more important or a logically better move than if the Panthers did it? I don't think that every move for every team is equal, right? And so, like, if you go, imagine if you went and signed a top end wide receiver to a team where you didn't have a quarterback, right? Did you pay him the money another team would play? Sure, right? But is it the appropriate time? Is this the appropriate time to invest in Brian Burns? And really, if you're going to pay this number to a player, particularly on this defense, as you jettison every single other motherfucking player, you have to say he's the cornerstone we're going to build around. He is the player that is going to be more important than any other player. And I just don't feel that's the case with Brian Burns.
Can I also?
I just don't think he is a cornerstone. I think he's a good player.
And T-Money, you can have that argument all day, but hindsight is 20/20. Can you really say, looking at either of the CMC, if he was on the Panthers, he would have been Offensive Player of the Year? Absolutely not. He benefited by going to a great situation. Now, when you look at DJ Moore, can you say he would have been a top 5 wide receiver in the league last year? Absolutely not. Not with the things that we had set up with this offense. Like, you can talk about these things that these guys are like, they can go other places and do that. But the thing is, they would not have lived up to the contract here in Carolina. That's the reality. That is what the reality is. You can argue that they had good situations, and Brian Burns may go out there and blow the doors off of the place in New York. And I hope he does. But it doesn't mean he was worth us paying the money, because we would have still been in the exact same position in a bad team, and he wouldn't have made those same he wouldn't have been doing the exact same things here, because he wouldn't have had anybody to compliment him. He wouldn't have had a defense that was going to help him get there. He wouldn't have had an offense that was going to help keep him off the field or give him, the ability to actually pass rush people because we're playing from a lead. That's not the case.
Yeah. And by the way, it may that
you don't pay him. We don't pay him.
And by the way, if you want to say that it's the fault of the Panthers, sure. I have made the argument on this podcast that whenever you draft a player, you're turning an hourglass upside down, and you have a certain amount of time to maximize that player's value on this team. Well, if your argument is that we should have put more pieces around him on defense or things of that nature, well, we have missed the time period to do so. Now, to pay him that much money, no one has made a good argument as to what that does for us, other than, oh, well, the defense is bad and we can't let another good defensive player go. Like, sorry, it wasn't very good with him. And by the way, to DJ Kidd, he was saying, what are the moves that Dan Morgan is doing? Just putting a guard out there? Yes, getting one of the best guards in the NFL to hit free agency, and you're not done. Now you're able to use those picks to get more help for Bryce Young. You have to do that. You have no other options at this point, man. So I'm happy about it, man. If everybody wants to cry and get upset, fine. That's your prerogative. You're allowed to do so. We don't tell anyone how to be a fan. But I think that this is what the Panthers have needed to do for a long time. and now we're just ripping the Band-Aid off, so it hurts even more.
Let's keep going through with the calls.
Yo, what's up, my C3 family? D,
What up, D?
North Carolina. Kind of wanting to talk to that, what's his name, DJ the Kid, so forth. Bro, and this goes to certain fans because I believe there's a lot of fans that just like to have the name on the jersey. The production don't mean nothing. He was a first rounder and he's big and he make good commercials and so forth like that instead of taking the time to look at the production. And for him, the only thing that I got to beef with, for you to talk about when we 0-17, bruh, no, we going to be better this year than we were last year. And last year we won 0-17. When I yell keep pounding, not just for them players to go out there in them trenches and do what they supposed to. I yell keep pounding because as a fan base, we got to motivate and drill these dudes that they want to play for us and play for this city. And then on one side, we got cats calling Bryce Young a daggum midget. Then you want to talk about the whole defense just went to shit because Brian Burns is gone. The defense wasn't good. Disagreeing with Tony about the defense is not being good is just absolutely stupid and asinine. I don't know. I've been here since day one. I've watched the ups and downs. I'm seeing the things going the right direction. Ain't even significantly as bad as when Julius Peppers left. This is not even as bad as DJ Moore leaving. It's just the fact of he could have went instead of Moore. And then to sit here and every time I turn around is something negative about this team. Who are you a fan of? I'm not telling nobody how to be a fan. I'll never tell nobody how to be a fan. But there you go. What a part of a fan you supposed to cheer your damn team on. And half the time y'all just sitting here, it's 17. We sucking this and that. And over half of y'all talk trash about Brian Burns in the last month. And now that they actually did something about it, y'all got to complain about that. It's time to damn unite. Tired of this. We got into the spaces damn earlier. Had Pickle about to lose his damn mind. Come on, y'all. We are better than this. I know that it's fresh and the Band-Aid just been pulled or whatever, but damn it, we better than this. We've been better than this. Let's keep seeing what these dudes is cooking. And then if it don't work out, we can reevaluate and give our comments. But how unfair of a situation. Morgan just got in the office. We just made a deal. We might end up getting a generational talent. And then you're just sitting there just running your gums. Do you want engagement? Is it engagement? I don't know. But like I said, shout out to the longest running Panther podcast that's out here on these streets.
Hey, shout out my guy D, man. Bro, he's one of the best, most positive C3 faithful that we got, man. Dude, and I love it, man. The Panther fans, they're bipolar. 1 minute they're complaining about Brian Burns, we should we should just pay him and give him anything that he wants. And then we try and move on from him and put options around Bryce and put protection around Bryce. And then it was, we didn't get enough in a trade. Look, man, you're worrying about old shit. The only thing we can do is judge this now moment. It's the only thing that exists anyway. And I don't know. I think we're doing okay. Nirvash with the $5 says, Cody, since you're more familiar with T. Higgins than I am, what makes him worth trading for and paying big money to? Well, I'm a firm believer he's the number one wide receiver. He is that deep threat. And when you watch his passes that he gets from Joe Burrow, he's a down-the-field receiver, and he drops nothing. He will go up, high point the ball, and he can be that trusted member of the receiving core for Bryce. He's also a much better route runner than he gets credit for. I mean, he's been cooking people since he was at Clemson, winning national championships. 6'4". He can high point the ball. Great hands, great eyes, great anticipation of where the ball is coming from. And again, that contested ball receiver. Think of like a DeAndre Hopkins or a Mike Williams when they were a little bit younger. I think that's what T. Higgins would represent for the Panthers.
DJ the Kid says he's not interested in sitting through rebuilds. The thing that I think here is that, and maybe this is why it's a little foreign to Panther fans. And I'm not talking about you specifically, DJ the Kid, but while people are going nuts on Twitter about losing all the defensive players, we never rebuilt in a way from an institutional standpoint. And we're really seeing kind of some of the difficulties of that is not having first round picks, having, kind of always moving with the idea that division is in sight. The division is in sight. The retool rather than the rebuild. Really, the Panthers didn't do this. What they have done over the long term has done things backwards. They hire a coach, then hire a GM. They then, they make these moves trying to go backwards on them. And this might be the first time that we've seen them starting to try to get the order of events correct while you get your GM. The GM hires the head coach. And now you start to say this, it's time to construct a roster and new players that we believe in rather than trying to piecemeal these players from the past. The thing that to me continues to say that screams, and this is why I don't think, I'm just going to say this, is I think it's okay for another team to pay Brian Burns this money. They might be in a position. I don't know if the Giants are that team, but maybe they are. And for us to not to, I think both those things can be true at that moment. And right now, the Carolina Panthers drafted 8 players in 2020 when Matt Rule, all to the defense. It was like a historic defensive draft. And right now, we have to build the entire defense. And I don't think having Brian Burns makes – sure, you've got a better player than whatever player isn't on your roster right now. But there are so many complete problems on that defense. This team is going to really have to build in a way that we're unfamiliar with as Carolina Panthers. Is that we are going through one of those rebuilds that you might want to point back to the successes that came with the Bengals acquiring Joe Burrow, pairing up another first-round pick the next year, right? So maybe you're going in the direction, I guess you want to look back. You maybe hope to look at teams like the Jags, but they still always stink for some reason. But the Panthers have never really done it fully from top to bottom, from GM to roster. And maybe, just maybe, this is them recognizing you can't piecemeal this together, pay a couple of people, then not be able to pay people. But right now, the complete rebuild is going to start with building around Bryce Young, right? And then we'll figure the rest out. There are going to be opportunities for this team to add defensive ends through free agency, just not on day one. To be honest, I'm a little surprised that we were a day one mover other than just selling in general. The fact that we bought Robert Hunt today said, look, is that they knew that this offensive line was so untenable that they couldn't go with another Cameron Irvin, whatever his name, Cam Irvin, and whoever else that they brought in that year that stunk altogether. A couple more calls. See what we got.
What's up, Panther people? It's Christian from Arizona, Christian Hunt. Not related to Robert Hunt, but my brother from another mother is now on the Panthers team. Tony, man, we fucking said it. We've been clamoring for it. Address the offensive line. They're doing it. Also, I try to tell those fools on the fucking Friday free-roll that the Panthers and what Jacinda Anderson had to say about a third-round pick, that I guaranteed there was no way they were going to get anything less than a second-rounder. Well, we got a second-rounder. So all those idiots that want to sit there and listen to someone who's just fucking looking for clicks, by all means, just keep going at it, have fun, whatever you want to think. I think we could have gotten a little bit more, but that is a big contract they had to dish out, so I guess they had to justify it somehow. But anyway, really sad to see Luvu go, man. I've been working all day. I drive home, I turn on a video game, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, let me check to see if anyone's on Spaces. And next thing I fucking know, there's all these fucking notifications popping up. Burns, Hunt, Luvu. I mean, I don't know, man. Now T. Higgins. Cody finally going to get that Clemson guy. Maybe. We'll see. They might fuck it up, though. All right. We'll see how it goes.
I think we have to look, too, sometimes when we think about the trade value for players is look from the other side, right? Is that while you want to look at what you hope Carolina could get, imagine if you were the Giants and you paid Brian Burns today $150 million and gave up a first-round pick. Like, that just seems such an extreme give for the other team, right?
And they still can't stop the run, even with Brian Burns on the team.
So I just think sometimes it's like, yeah, you want to fleece, you want to do that, but more, and maybe it's because the Panthers typically are on the fleeced end of deals. You go back to maybe trading too much for Darnold, too much for this and that. But, you know, I think there were a lot of people when Christian McCaffrey was gone or when he was sent. I think a lot of people, there were two camps. There were we wish we would have kept him. And there was, man, thank God we got something for him. Like we were able to secure. Like I don't feel people at the time of the Christian McCaffrey trade were like, man, I can't believe we didn't get a first. Man, it would have been nice. But a guy who had been dealing with injury and, you know what I mean? But really, for me, I just felt like we should have kept him because we're eating all that money. Last two calls, and we'll kind of call. We'll get to our calling tonight.
This is T-Money 1993. What up, big bro, Tony?
What's up, T-Money?
Pretty much how I feel at this point is the Carolina Panthers have become the farm system for the NFL, man. DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, Brian Burns, all out the door at 26 years or younger. No first-round picks, only second-round picks in exchange for all of them. Of course, part of that is you help to get Bryce, but okay. So pretty much at this point, like, it's just, I'm normally, semi-optimistic, but at this point, it's just feeling like none of this makes no sense. I'm done having blind faith in everybody. I know that's what Cody wants to do. Shout out to Cody, but I can't do it anymore. I can't just blind believe in Dan Morgan. I can't blind believe in Dave Canales. I just was told last year I had the dream team of coaches, and I did that. So I'm done, man. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I mean, y'all tell me, look at who's our pass rushers for next year. Point blank period, man. But I'm just so over this team right now. At this point, I mean, shit, we could have gave Matt Rule his Jay-Z 6-year plan at this point. But anyway, man, appreciate it. As you already know, love you guys. I'm out.
Thank you, Team Money. Great point there. I think here is the point I do agree with you entirely. Is like, let's not crown anybody, right? From Dave Canales to Dan Morgan. We've learned that lesson, I think, as Panther fans far too much, or we bought too much in. We do try to find some things to not just believe in them blindly, but to be optimistic about. If anything, when it comes to Dave Canales, you just have to hope and hang your hat that the logic behind it is that he's worked with quarterbacks and gotten the most out of them. Yeah. And to me, Geno Smith is the one to look at right here. Is like, look at how good Geno was when he had done nothing in the NFL with Dave Canales. And then the other thing for Dan Morgan, to me, is that, no, I'm not going to just say that he's going to be great. I think, though, signing Brian Burns to the big deal would have been more of a red flag for me than what happened today. Great question, though. Who is going to get any sacks? But I tell you what, we just lost a total of 12 sacks today with 3 players. So, You know what if we can't find a way to get 6, if we can't get a guy who gets 6 sacks on this team next year, there's somebody out there. There is a one-year warrior, somebody less than $30 million. There will be players. I don't think you're going to have to add somebody in free agency. But look, is the 49ers added Leonard Floyd? They added YGM. The Panthers could go and get, it's a cool name. There's a guy from the Browns. He's a little bit older. He might not command. The Panthers are going to be shopping for a defensive end in 3 weeks from now. They're not going to be signing an edge rusher in the first batch. You're going to have to let the first batch go. Then you're going to have the second batch go. And then you're going to get the third ones where guys kind of like Ngakwe. What was that guy for the Colts last year where he wanted to get paid money and nobody was ready to do it? And so then you're going to get a guy on a 1-year deal that wanted to get more, that's trying to play it on a prove it deal. So all right, we got 2 more calls, and let's see what's rocking and
Real quick, man, it's me, C-Dog 1983 TV. Whenever you come in here, make sure you like the content. Make sure you subscribe to the great fucking content. C3 Podcast is the longest running Panther podcast on YouTube, period. And also how many subscribers they got. They should have more, but they are the longest running Panther podcast on YouTube and other platforms. But real quick, man, what can I get started, man? Overpaid for a motherfucking guard. We gave a guard $100 million when Icky can't even goddamn do his fucking job. Don't let that go over your head. We overpaid for a fucking guard. We gonna give somebody an offensive lineman $100 million. It better be fucking Trent Williams or somebody like that, or Jordan Gross, but not a fucking guard. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Then we got them let Brian Burns go for a 2nd-round pick. If you can't get at least a 1st-round pick for him, man, fucking keep him. But I don't know, man. It's nothing to be excited about right now for this football team. It's nothing excited to be about. But I ain't gonna be on here long, man. This is a depressing time as a Panthers fan. It really is. But fuck Dan Morgan. I never wanted Dan Morgan to be the fucking GM in the first place. We got fucking goddamn Dave Canales, the fucking Puerto Rican princess. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck are we doing, man? Like, what the fuck, man? Baker Mayfield and motherfucking Tampa Bay, Kirk Cousins and the Falcons, and we stuck with fucking Bryce Young. We better goddamn draft Joe Milton or somebody in the 5th round. Like, we need a fucking quarterback competition, man. But anyways, man, whenever you come in here, hit the fucking like button. Make sure you subscribe to the great fucking content. Your boys go live every Tuesday. They got them go live every Friday with the free fall. They got the compilation during the season on Saturday, and they got them go live after the game on Sunday. But everybody have a great fucking day. I'm gonna try to keep pounding. But everybody keep pounding, man.
Keep pounding, man.
Fucking week, man. T-Dog 1983 TV out.
Appreciate it, man. Brand ambassador right there. We got the last call of the night, it looks like.
What's up, guys? This is Chase, man. I'll make this quick.
What's up, Chase?
Could you do your best to get this breaking episode up on the streaming platform so I can listen to it tomorrow? Pretty please, sir. And also, all these talks about the Panthers, T. Higgins. What is people seeing this at? Because I can't find nowhere that this is a thing that's happening. All right.
No, it's a kind of a rumor mill right now. Is that the idea is, look, as T. Higgins has said that he right now, I think the news that came out today that I heard is that T. Higgins, generally that the franchise tag was developed for teams to extend the negotiation periods for a guy that they wanted to sign, and that these players wanted to be there. But T. Higgins has just articulated that he doesn't want to play on the franchise tag. He wants to be traded. And so now a lot of people are looking, kind of trying to read the tea leaves of who could offer the most for him, what the Panthers are trying to do with that 33rd or 39th pick. If you throw out there and you say this is we're going to get T. Higgins and we give up the 33rd pick, I'm not going to be terribly upset. Right, is that you could say, oh, it's such a great wide receiver draft class, but you are getting a proven commodity here, right? And in a room where you need it just as much as we needed a pass rusher. So, look, there's no real news. It's just kind of some rumors that those are the murmurs, and that people are hoping for. We got another call that came in. T Money wants a little shot at it again.
This is T-Money again. As far as the dumb ones in the comments trying to tell people they not real Panther fans and they need to hit the transfer portal, Tony, please let them know how long I've been around.
T-Money been
I
making
told you,
videos since YouTube started
anybody
letting you.
connected to C3, there's nobody can say that they were around before me. Shit, even being a Panthers fan, the Panthers were created October 26, 1993. My birthday is October 27, 1993. So there's not too many people who, unless you're the Richardson family, can say that they were a Panther fan before me. So, we just going to stop with that cap. Just because we are at a point where we second guessing decisions that we should have years ago, please don't try to say somebody's not a real fan. Like y'all, we want the best for the team. Yeah. And I'm just not agreeing that the decisions we're making is the best for our team.
Hey,
and that's all right.
Totally cool with that too. I think that well, first is there's no way to fan. There are some irritating fans out there to me that always just tell other fans they don't know shit. Right. That's actually the fan. Yeah, the fan that just tells other fans that they're dumb all the time is the one that maybe makes me upset. But look, it's here. There are no right answers right now. And that's where I really get upset with people saying things are right, things are wrong when it comes to even in the comments where people saying, well, you've been hating on Bryce. No, I just did. And I thought you made a great point earlier. It's like, let's not crown we're not crowning anybody. And so to me, I think that crowning Brian Burns with the bag is just as risky as letting him go, if not more. Right. And so I think this is what we know is the Panthers have made a calamity of errors, and the fans haven't been the ones that have done that. Right. The fans didn't hire Matt Rule. The fans didn't hire Frank Wright. Now we throw our full support. What I think is I've been burned so much now. I'm just, after this last coaching staff, I'm just like, this is like, I don't even know what the hell is going to happen.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, dude, C3, we are for the fans. And there are so many different perspectives on this football team. Bro, who are any of us to tell any of you that you're wrong for feeling the way you feel? The Panthers have been terrible for going on 6 years now. So, like, if you don't have faith that this is the right move, we're not going to tell you that you can't say that. Like, we pride ourselves on letting y'all vent, on letting you have your voices and opinions heard. That's what the C3 Panthers podcast is. We're in the car, you're hanging out, driving to the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what we do, man. So if you're not happy with it, you're allowed to feel that way. Vice versa, if you are happy with it, that's cool too. Here is the place for you to express that opinion.
I understand a lot of people's uncertainty with the team going forward. I just cannot latch on to any player with love and craziness. To me, the only player that I'm latching on to is Bryce Young, and not because I believe he's going to be great, but because we need to invest. We invested so much in him. It would be foolish, I think, to pull the rug out from him. Other than that, I don't care about anybody, though, on this team. And right now, I think that the fact that we are just trying to hope to have a good player, I think Panther fans, look, people keep, and I'm really firmly believing this, is people saying, I can't believe the Panthers didn't get more for Brian Burns. I honestly, if I'm a team trading for Brian Burns, I'm giving up more and paying this type of money, to me, seems foolish.
Right.
Like, you have to look at it from a perspective outside of Carolina.
Right. Think about it from the idea that we would be the Giants right now. Would you be all right with not being a fan of this team,
not having any investment in Brian Burns as a player?
Burns only being able to go off the stats, and that is it, because you're not watching our games. You're not all you hear is Pro Bowl defensive end, and when you go to look at that year, you're like, why was he in the Pro Bowl? Right? Would you legitimately have given a first-round draft pick to be able to get Brian Burns and then pay that type of money? Absolutely not. But that's a different scenario, T-Money. You know that. The Rams weren't picking up Brian Burns with the intention of signing a $150 million year. They were giving us 2 first-round draft picks as they were a desperate team at the time because they were in the middle of trying to get to the playoffs. On top of that, they weren't needing to sign him to that contract yet. He was still on a very friendly rookie deal with a year and a half left, with this 5th-year option still being on the table. That's not the same situation. Those are incredibly different situations. No, and the Giants fans, the majority, you might see some, but there's a lot that are feeling the exact same way that we're describing. We've already highlighted a few of those people.
Yeah. So, all right. That's kind of the breaking news podcast, unless you guys have much more you want to talk about. I mean, I'm pretty good on this conversation. We got a long show ahead of us tomorrow night. Yep. We're here at 9. We got one.
How about this? DJ the Kid says that we're not answering the question on who or where our pass rush is coming from next year. So how about this? Tomorrow night at 9, let's look at some of those hypotheticals on what Dan Morgan and Brant Tillis and the boys can do to help our pass rush this year. So that way we're not just talking about it. We're putting forth some meaningful options that could be available to us.
I mean, you have to realize this is day 1 of free agency. This is day 1 of free agency. Right. Now, are you jettisoning all your players? Certainly. But you're going to have to, I mean, you got to fill out the roster. And so the question is, where is the pass rush going to come from? I don't know yet. We'll develop a plan. We'll be here at 9:00 tomorrow night and give you guys some options. But I tell you this is that if it's just recreating the pass rush we had last year, I think we can do it. I think we could get close to it. I mean, come on. It's not like it was an imposing fucking defense, an imposing pass. We're last in the league in sacks. I'm not saying that automatically it's going to be easy and it gets better right away, but it's not like you have to replace 30 lost sacks. In fact, I think the greater question is not only where are you going to replace the defensive pressure, but how about this? Where are you going to replace the corners, the safeties, the linebackers? There's a lot of fucking questions on this team. And a lot of questions. And it looks like this is that there's going to be hopefully some answers to come. But to my answer to you guys is don't expect it to be fixed overnight either. Right? It's like this team was such a mess and is such a mess. I think we've gone too far into believing that we can win 10 games over a year. It's like, we got the coaching staff in here. Look at this. It's fucking Bryce Young, and we're going to win 10, 11 games. That was foolish of us for thinking that. Will this be easy? No. Right? But maybe finally we can admit that our expectations have to be somewhat realistic and measured going forward. So this is the C3 Panthers podcast. It was a free agent opening bonus podcast as Brian Burns has been traded. Frankie Luvu now is a commander, and the Carolina Panthers have tried to address some of the problems they've had at guard over the past year by getting active in free agency with Robert Hunt. Hopefully tomorrow night we'll have a lot of news, particularly maybe a T. Higgins move coming forward, but we'll have some plans about how the Panthers could potentially move forward in free agency and couple this with the draft. And this is that whether or not it's good, bad, or indifferent, we'll be here Tuesday night, 9 p.m., longest running Panthers podcast out there. Haven't missed a week in over a decade, another decade in the mix, I hope. Call into the show and we'll get to, there was another call that came in. We'll get to it first thing tomorrow night. Check out iTunes and Spotify for your podcast. I'll get this up this evening. Cody Lack, take us out of here.
C3 Panther Nation, until tomorrow night at 9 p.m. when your boys will do it all over again. You already know what we're going to do, baby. Keep pounding.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now, but I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code CAR for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code CAR for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code CAR.